hurricane watch in effect for both islands.
Tropical storm watch to a tropical storm warning, and you've had in effect a hurricane watch, correct?
Correct.
Let's talk about the impacts. Let's talk about the fact that this storm has slowed down marginally as well, because the previous advisories had it moving a little bit faster. What are the implications of this?
Okay, so it was forecast to slow down. It started out yesterday at 23 miles per hour, went down to 17, and it has been trending downward. And that was anticipated for it to do, and also expected to turn towards the west, northwest, and northwest. Interestingly, and to some degree of good news, it is still on a westerly path. So it means that a turn to us will have to be a rather sharp one if it is to occur. But at this time, that is still the forecast. In terms of impacts, well, the timelines with respect to the onset of storm force winds, it remains the same in terms of onset starting sometime between 8 o'clock and midnight tomorrow night. And it could last for up to 10 hours based on the data available at this time. The forecast also suggests that it will become a hurricane while in, near, or over the islands, and at which time we could also see a couple hours of hurricane conditions. In terms of the hazards, high winds, well, we could see up to hurricane force winds depending on how close it passes to us. Flooding, rainfall, inland flooding. The update suggests that we could see in the range of 48 inches with isolating the higher amounts. And as I've indicated before, the stronger the winds become, the more hazardous the seas will be, the higher the surfs and swells are likely to be that will pound our coastlines.
Let's talk about additional advisories. So tropical storm warning now in effect, and hurricane watch. In relation to flooding, are you likely to issue flood advisories?
Yes, we are very likely to issue flood advisories. We are some time away from that still, but more likely than not, we'll be issuing a flash flood watch to cover tomorrow evening, and we will likely need to upgrade that to a flash flood warning with the passage of time. We already have marine alerts in effect, and those are likely to be upgraded from advisories to warnings as the time draws near to onset.
Let me ask you this one, Dale, in relation to how the system is configured now. Is it a perfectly symmetrical storm? In other words, is convective activity wrapped around the center of circulation right across the system, or is more of it configured more to one side of it? In other words, yesterday we had most of the convective activity to the east of the center of circulation. Is that still the case? And what are the implications for this country based on how its forecast track is now?
Right, so it is still struggling to get that structure, its structure right. Still the cloud mass is not symmetrical around the center. There's still some shear going on, and one of the parameters that we normally look at to get a good guidance as to how things are happening with respect to a storm is the central pressure. The central pressure is still at 1,002 millibars, which is relatively, well, that's the range for a storm. We're not seeing the pressure falling as we would see once a storm is becoming better organized and more symmetrical. So there's still some struggles with the system, and looking at it on satellite imagery, the cloud pattern doesn't present itself with any improved organization from what we would have seen this morning. However, the forecast is still for it to become better organized and to gradually intensify and reach hurricane status in the next 36 to 48 hours.
Right. And based on that forecast track, let's say it doesn't, and as it is now, is most of the activity expected to pass over Antigua and Barbuda based on how it is now?
Yes, so the center, if the center at this time is forecast to track either slightly west of Antigua and Barbuda or over Antigua and Barbuda. If the center were to track to the east of us, then we could escape most of the prolonged storm conditions that are likely to be associated with it. If the center passes west of us, then it brings us into the full impact of the storm or hurricane, and we'll see all of what it has to offer at the time at which it's forecast to pass tomorrow.
To be clear, based on what is the forecast track now, we're expected to encounter most of the activity, you're saying?
Based on the forecast track, we are expected to see pretty much all of what Tammy has in store when it gets to us tomorrow evening.
Okay. And just talk to us finally about the kind of wind speeds we're looking at, expected?
Right, so the fact that we have a hurricane watch in effect, that means that hurricane conditions are possible in our area, somewhere within our area. The tropical storm warning means that we expect storm conditions to occur somewhere in our area. So that's pretty much the information that is communicated by the watch versus the warning.
And of course, hurricane wind speeds are anything over 74 miles per hour, correct?
74 miles per hour and over.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much. Dale, thank you. Really appreciate you joining us. And of course, we'll monitor very closely in relation to what Tammy does. Still some level of uncertainty at this point, but we'll follow very, very closely. It seems that the forecast models are coalescing a bit, converging a bit. And there's a little bit more certainty now, but still a little bit that we're not absolutely clear on at this point. But of course, in the next few hours, we will know much more. Dale, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All the best. Dale Destin is a meteorologist and the director of the Antigua and Barbuda Meteorological Services, providing us with the very latest in relation to Tropical Storm Tammy, a strengthening Tropical Storm Tammy, one that is expected to become a hurricane, as you heard Dale say, when it is over or near these islands. Well, of course, keep you across it in the next few hours. A full update coming up at 5 o'clock on radio, ABS Radio 90.5 FM with Live at 5. And of course, at 7 o'clock, we will have the 5 p.m. bulletin at 7 o'clock and all the very latest in terms of what the preparations are for Tammy. I'm Garfield Burford. Bye-bye.